Hello and welcome to the Srijan Wednesday webinars. If you're joining us for the first time, this is a community initiative by Srijan Technologies where you can tune into some great sessions on topics ranging from front-end technologies, UI UX and mobile apps to media, entrepreneurship, community building and digital marketing. In today's webinar, we foray into the exciting territory of data visualization in Ruby. Our speaker today is Sameer Deshmukh, who will be taking us through the various SciRuby libraries that now make it possible to handle complex numerical computation in Ruby without resorting to Python or R. Speaking of the speaker, Sameer is a university student and a contributor to the Ruby Science Foundation, where he helps build scientific computation tools in Ruby. He is currently maintaining Daru, a library for data analysis and manipulation in Ruby. He enjoys spending his spare time with friends, books, and his bass guitar. Before we get started with the session, I would request all participants to please type in any questions that you have during the presentation, and we'll take them up in the last 15 minutes of this session. Also, please don't forget to take the conversation live on Twitter using our hashtag SrijanWW. You can share your thoughts by tagging us in your tweets using our handle @Srijan and Sameer's handle, which will be up on your screens shortly. So without taking up any more time, let's get started. Sameer, over to you.
Hello everyone. Today, welcome to the Srijan Wednesday webinars. Today I'll be talking about scientific computation and data visualization in Ruby. Before I start, let me do a short introduction of myself. My name is Sameer Deshmukh. I'm also known on GitHub as Waldro and on Twitter with the same tag as well. I am a core team member of the Ruby Science Foundation, or SciRuby for short. SciRuby is an open source organization dedicated to making Ruby a viable library for scientific computing and data analysis. For this purpose, we develop high quality open source tools. I'm on the core team of some of SciRuby's gems, and I'm currently focusing my efforts on integrating SciRuby tools to make them a viable alternative for data science. You can follow us on Twitter on this handle to stay up to date with our efforts. I was first introduced to SciRuby as a summer intern for Google Summer of 2015. Later that year, I also received the Ruby Association grant for interfacing a few high-speed C libraries with Ruby. Currently, I'm the admin for SciRuby for GSOC 2016, and I'm also handling some of the administrative work. In this talk, I will be introducing you to some of the important tools and infrastructure that SciRuby is creating to make Ruby a better language for scientific computing, and I will particularly focus on data visualization since it's a very hot topic of discussion for a lot of people. We will go over some of the important open source libraries that are available for use under the Ruby ecosystem, and I will also follow up my slides with a short demo of these tools to demonstrate their working. The first tool that I will talk about is called the iRuby Notebook. The iRuby Notebook is a browser-based REPL shell for interactive computing. REPL stands for Read, Evaluate, Print, Loop. If you might have used the IRB or Pry shells, iRuby is very similar to that, the only difference being that it works in your browser. As you can see, this is a snapshot of the iRuby Notebook. You can see that it's running in your browser, and there's an input cell into which you can put in your Ruby code. The Ruby code is evaluated by a Pry backend, and the Pry backend outputs it in the form of good-looking HTML or CSS, which you can share with people, or which you can use for basically generating better-looking output from your Ruby code. We'll see much greater use cases of this later. iRuby is also useful for receiving any sort of data from your users, and you can create forms right inside iRuby and accept input from your users, which you can then feed into any Ruby scripts that you might have. The next gem that we'll go through is called NMatrix. NMatrix is an n-dimensional array object similar to NumPy in Python. What makes it an important tool is that it can be used in an efficient container for numerical data of an arbitrary shape of a particular data type, and it can also be used for easily interfacing Ruby with various high-speed C libraries for very fast computations on data. Internally, NMatrix stores data as C arrays of a specific data type of a fixed size and exposes an API similar to Ruby's array class for accessing these elements. For example, as you can see in this code sample, you can see that I specify the shape of the NMatrix as the first argument to the NMatrix.new method. In the second argument, I'm specifying the actual elements of this matrix, and then I specify the data type, that is a 32-bit floating point number. I said that, as I already said, it exposes a Ruby array-like API for accessing these elements, and you can see that if I want the element present at the 0th row and the first column, I just need to specify n0, 1, and I get 2.0 as the answer. NMatrix supports 8 data types, ranging from 8-bit floating point, ranging from 8-bit integers to 128-bit floating point numbers. It also supports 3 storage types for storing matrices either as dense matrices or sparse matrices. Now, the NMatrix gem is more like a simple data container and Ruby wrapper over C data types by itself. What makes it truly shine is the fact that it provides a powerful C API, which can be used for interfacing these internal C arrays with various high-speed C libraries. Thus, it allows anybody to create powerful plugins for interfacing these C libraries with using NMatrix as a dependency. As of now, we have plugins for 4 major libraries. As Atlas and LAPACK are primarily used for linear algebra and matrix transformations. FFTW is primarily used for fast Fourier transforms, and GSL, as you know, has almost every mathematical function one can think of. For those who love JRuby, I'm glad to tell you that NMatrix is also coming to JRuby with the exact same API. Internally, NMatrix, the JRuby equivalent of NMatrix, will use the Apache Commons math library and will try to be as fast as the MRI version of NMatrix. The third library that we'll look at is called Nyaplot. Nyaplot is meant to be an interactive plotting tool for Rubyists. It generates interactive HTML and JavaScript plots that can be displayed in your browser. They can be either displayed in your browser directly as HTML files after being exported as HTML files, or you can use an iRuby notebook for the same. This is a very simple sine wave generated by Nyaplot. We'll have a look at more of these later. Nyaplot also figures a plugin-based architecture similar to NMatrix. It has 3 major plugins for this purpose. MapNya primarily caters to map visualizations. Nyaplot 3D is used for 3-dimensional interactive plots, and BioNya is used for biology-based plots for visualizing relationships between genes. Next gem that we'll look at is called GNUplot-RB. GNUplot-RB is a very simple Ruby wrapper over GNUplot. It very conveniently exposes a lot of GNUplot functions through Ruby. So you don't need to draw in the GNUplot syntax and basically write Ruby code for interfacing with GNUplot. In order to create a very simple line graph, have a look at this code. In the first argument to this code, I'm specifying some y coordinates, and the lines points argument that I specify tells it the way that it's supposed to plot it. So this code will generate a graph which looks like this. It's purely using GNUplot in the backend. Now, if you want to plot 2 different line graphs on the same graph, all you need to do specify another array with different elements as a second argument to the GNU plot RV plot method, and the result turns out to be something like this. The next library that we'll look at is called StatSample. StatSample is a library for statistical analysis and modeling of data. Again, it also features a plugin based architecture, and it has plugins for generalized linear models and time series, apart from numerous statistical tests and models that you can use for verifying various statistical models that you might have created. The next library that we'll look at is called Daru. Now, for most Rubies from all over the world, Daru stands for data analysis in Ruby. However, for Indians, Daru also means alcohol, which is considered to be a very important drink by Indians. Daru is a library for analysis, cleaning, manipulation, and visualization of data. It is a library primarily for use by data scientists who are interested in analysis and cleaning of their data. Daru gives you some pretty powerful features like advanced data indexing capabilities, reading and writing of data from various sources like CSV files, SQL databases, Excel files, and even Active Record. It also has a whole lot of statistics methods and works very well with wild data. By wild data, I mean data that's missing or is not in a form that can be analyzed by conventional means. Various sources say that almost 60% of a data scientist's time is spent in cleaning data, and Daru tries to make their life easier by having several functions that try to reduce this time, including sorting, joining, and creating pivot tables. Daru also has many statistics querying and sorting functions, all of which work very well with missing or wild data. Daru also works very well with other SciRuby gems, including all of the one that I just talked about, and can leverage their functionality for plotting, interactive data analysis, statistical modeling, and data storage, which we will see in the tech demo coming up soon. Daru primarily performs its functions through two major data structures. The first one is called the Daru vector. The vector is a one-dimensional heterogeneous array-like data structure. Each element in the vector can be independently labeled via Daru's indexing functionality. We'll go over this later again. The second data structure that Daru uses is called the Daru data frame. This is a 2D spreadsheet-like data structure that both the rows and columns. It also leverages the indexing functionality that is used by Daru vector. Now, I would like to shift over to my demo, providing you better insight into these tools. So this is an iRuby notebook. Open over here. Let me shift to the first demo notebook. As I said, each iRuby notebook contains cells. Each cell can either contain Markdown or can contain code, as I've written over here. If you want to run the code in any code, you can press Command Enter for that, and it will execute that code. If the cell is set as Markdown, it will execute it as Markdown. If it's code, it will execute it as code. In this cell over here, I want to get some input from the user and use it as input into this Ruby script. In order to make this process easier, the best thing to do would be to use a form. So now let's put in the number of rows of a matrix. Let's put in the number of columns, and let's put in the number that you want the matrix to be populated with. I press done, and I get the result in the form of a hash. A hash in the bottom cell, and it outputs a very good looking matrix just like this. Now let's go over to a more concrete example. Here's another notebook that I've created. In the first cell, we are requiring n matrix, and now we want to create a 4 by 4 n matrix with elements that with 16 elements. I want the data type to be a 64-bit floating point number, which is why I pass it to the D type option. The output turns out to be like this. Now, I want to create an n matrix with 8-bit integers. For demonstration purposes, I keep this as 129, and as you can see, it has been reflected as 120, thus proving that n matrix is actually storing it in the form of 8-bit integers internally. As I said, n matrix also exposes a very Ruby array-like API. I want to select the element at the 0th row and 3rd column. I do that with the box operator, and I get minus 127 as the output. You can also assign elements to an n matrix with the box equals operator. I want to assign 56 to the element present at the 0th row and 1st column, and I do that, and this is the matrix that I get. But as I said, n matrix is of each n matrix object is of a fixed shape, and therefore it cannot be expanded. So if you try to set an n matrix to a size that is greater than itself, it will fail because internally the C arrays are of a fixed size, and n matrix is not designed and not meant to be used in a way that you want the size of the n matrix to expand. Now let me review the finest Linux of n matrix, that is using the Atlas plugin. Atlas is a C library which stands for Automatically Tuned Linear Algebra Software. It has many functions for intricate matrix transformations, and it's one of the fastest libraries that can be used for this purpose. In order to demonstrate the speed to you, I will benchmark matrix multiplication performed with n matrix Atlas on one hand, and matrix multiplication, that is the Ruby matrix Ruby matrix library, on the other. For this purpose, we require matrix, and we require the benchmark plot gem, which is an extension to the Ruby benchmarking module for creating plots of your code, for creating plots of your benchmarking code. Sorry. In this code, as you can see, I'm creating an n matrix of these sizes. First, I create an n matrix of size 5 by 5. I populate it with ones, and the data type is float 32. I call the dot function on the n matrix multiplication of one 5 by 5 matrix with 5 by 5 matrix. The exact equivalent code of this for to be here. This is also creating a 5 by 5 matrix, but this time in using Ruby matrix, and over here is using Ruby matrix of 5 by 5 of two 5 by 5 matrices. Now the benchmark plot gem generates very good looking graph. You can see for the same numbers, the n matrix with Atlas matrix multiplication is almost 0, whereas the matrix multiplication is greater than 4 seconds for with size 2 greater than 200. I'm sorry, for a matrix with size 200. Thus, n matrix with Atlas is extremely blazing fast, and all you need to do is the code for making this happen. Now, let us use n matrix for solving a system of linear equations. Say you have these three equations. By the way, you can also use iRuby code. If you just enclose any equation within the $$ sign, it as LaTeX. I am now creating coefficient matrices of these three equations and the RHS matrices of these three equations again. In order to solve them, I call the n, and this is what the answer turns out to be. Now let's head over to Matplotlib. I require Matplotlib just like I required in Matrix, and over here I'm curating the data for creating a simple line graph in Matplotlib. I'm sorry for this. So let's go through the Daru gem. Now as you can see, I'm requiring Daru, and distribution is a gem that is used for creating different sort of distributions like normal distributions and probabilistic distributions, and I'm also requiring GNU. Now as I said, Daru structures, first of which is the Daru vector. Over here I'm creating a Daru vector with these values, and as the index I specify I name this data structure prices of stuff, and as you can see, it has been printed very nicely in the Arrow notebook. Now I want to retrieve a single value from these. That I just specified with the box operator, and I get 45 as the answer to rice. In order to receive multiple values, I can send these using the comma operator in the box to the box operator and with the prices. If you want to retrieve a slice, do that by specifying barley dot sugar and all the elements that are between barley and sugar. Say you want to assign a value directly to the vector with the you can do that with the box equals operator. I want to assign 1500 to barley, and it's reflected in the vector as you can see. Now the second data structure that Daru uses is called the data frame. Again I specify an index just like I did for vector, and as I said, the data frame by row and column. So in order to specify the order of these columns, I specified into the order operator like this, and the data frame has been created here. Now if I want to access a column, I can just specify it by saying column 1 the Daru vector. If you want to access multiple columns, you can separate them with the comma operator, and it will return column as a data frame. In the form of a range, that can be done as well. So now I want all the columns from one, and now say you want to assign a column to a data frame. You can easily assign any vector to a data frame with the box equals operator and specifying the name of that column into the box operator. As you can see, this is the data that I want to assign, and this is the index over here. Now you will notice that Daru has matched the indices of index of the data frame. So 1 goes to this, and then 3 is which goes here. It does not stay here. This is a row with the dot row box method, and as you can see, I want to access the row 4, and it gives me 4 data and D as a Daru vector. Also specify a range of a row by specifying the indices as a range. So here I'm specifying 3 to 5, and I receive that. Assigning a row is with row box equals And now say you want to do some statistics on a vector with missing data. Now, as I said, Daru is very good for performing statistics and cleaning of data when your data is not in a form that is conventionally uh, 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 that can be used conventionally. So what I'm doing over here is specifying nils into the vector, and I call mean. And conventionally, this method would fail because it contains nils, but it does not in the case of Daru because it has been designed that way. Different statistics functions are also available on data frame. If I simply call df.mean, it will give me the mean of the first column. Not the first column, sorry, of all the numerical columns. It so happens that column 1 and column 2 have string data, and column 0 is the only column with numerical data. So it figures out which column has numerical data, and it gives you only the result of only that. All sorts of useful statistics can be computed on a data frame using the describe function. As you can see, it's giving the count, mean, standard deviation, minimum element and maximum element of column 0, which is the only numerical column in the data frame. Now, as I said, Daru offers very robust indexing functionality. One of the indices, apart from the Daru index, is called the datetime index. The datetime index is a special index for indexing data based on timestamps. This is particularly used to index your data if you have data pertaining to stock markets or the like. You can label each data based on a unique timestamp. So I can use the datetime index date range function to create a datetime index which is starting from the beginning, and it goes on for 1000 periods, and the frequency of this date range is 3 days. So now you can just pass in this, and as you can see, the data points that have been created over here have been mapped into the Daru vector on the timestamps. Now, the speciality of using datetime index, access data by partial timestamps. So say, as you can see over here, the data ranges from 2012 to 2020, but you want only the data that is present in 2012. So you can just specify it as a string into the box operator, and you get only the data that is present in 2012. Now, say you want in March 2012, you can specify it here this way. And as you can see, the data that is present here is only from March 2012. And if you want one particular data point, you specify the date precisely. So you want the data present on 10th March 2012, and it will give you the exact data point. It can also accept timestamps up to the precision of a second, and this example basically tries to demonstrate that. So over here, I'm creating a date range starting from the 23rd of 12 with a frequency of 1 second, and I index that into a data frame, into a Daru vector, and I want the data, all the data which is present from 12:42 23rd March 2012 to 12:43 23rd March 2012. So as you can see, it's up to the 59 second of 12:42. The third kind of index that you can use for a Daru vector, for Daru, is called the multi-index. Over here, I'm creating a hierarchical index from two tuples, and as you can see, it has been created this way. I'm passing the multi-index into the index option again, and I create this vector using a multi-index. So now, as you can see, the vector has been hierarchically indexed with these indices. So you can select data by specifying the level of nesting in the box operator. So say you want all the elements that are present under A and B, you specify A comma B and you get that. So now say you want vector only A, you specify only that, and the elements that are present under A are these, which you get as a Daru vector with this particular multi-index. And of course, specifying the complete multi-index will provide that specific data point. Now let me head over to the other notebook. Okay, so it's rendering nicely over here. So let's complete the Daru example. Just give me 1 minute. Actually, I think there was an issue with my development computer, and I think I forgot to set a few things up over here. Extremely sorry for that. Yeah. Now, coming to visualization of data frames, as you can see, I'm creating a hypothetical data frame over here where I want to portray the ice cream sales of a particular food chain in a city according to the temperature recorded in that city. Now over here, I have Pune, and the temperature was 30.4 degrees Celsius, and the sales for that day were 350. And on that particular day, the number of staff were 15. So we create a data frame of that, which looks something like this. And if you want to plot and now basically I want to correlate the temperature in the city to the sales of the ice cream that took place at that. So I use the data frame plot method, and I specify the type as a type of plot as a scatter. I specify the x-axis as the temperature, this one over here, and I specify the y-axis as the sales. So now inside this block, I receive the plot and diagram objects, and I configure. It leads to a plot using NyaPlot, which looks like this. So this is an interactive graph, and it has been shaped according to the city, and it has been filled. It has been shaped and filled according to the city. So now, if I hover on top of this, I can understand that when the staff was 20, the temperature was 28.334 degrees Celsius. The sales were 400 in the city of Delhi. If I go here, this is in the city of Pune with a staff of 15. The temperature was 44.5 degrees Celsius and the sales were 500. We'll see more examples of NyaPlots soon. Now I want to use Daru data frames with GNUplot. As I said, GNUplot is a very simple wrapper over the actual GNUplot library created by the GNU Foundation. I'm creating a random number generator over here, which will create numbers of normal number, which will create numbers belonging to a normal distribution. So now, from 2nd April 2012 of 1000 periods of 1 day each, that's the default, and the CumSum method on the vector creates the cumulative sum of this vector, and now I want the rolling mean of this vector. So basically, now using GNUplot, I plot the vector with the rolling mean, plot that I get. It's an error-like querying syntax. It uses the where clause, which is very similar to active record used in Rails. So right now I'm creating a data frame of this data, hypothetical data, and say I want all the elements where column A are equal to 2, or in the column C, and I get this. So in the column A are equal to 2, or in the column C are equal to 55. There it is. Now let us head over to the previous notebook that I was previewing. This is a very example of GNU plot. It lets you basically create plots using the plot method. So this is a simple 2D plot, and I'm plotting it with line. I'm specifying graph, so it plots that. Now I want to graphs on the same plot, so I use line plots for the first graph, and this is more data for the second graph, and I use lines. So this is basically the output. You can also plot using splot, using the splot class. So right now I want to plot a sphere, and this is what it turns out to be. I want a scatter graph again. So for the scatter graph, you specify the width option as dots, and you can also plot multiple graphs on the same frame. So these were the graphs that I generated over here. Plot 3, sphere, plot 1. Object, I simply specify them into the, and I want the layout to be a 2 by 2 layout. So I specify the 2 by 2 array, and I get 4 plots in one particular frame. Now let's head over to a more interesting use case. In this use case, I will be using Daro for analyzing baby names. This data has been pulled from the actual US statistics that show the baby names that were assigned to a particular set of people at a particular point of time. Let's see if it's loaded properly over here. I'm sorry. Yeah. Daru and GNU plot first. I want to load all this data from a bunch. So first I'll load the first CSV file, that is all the names that 51, and I append column to this data frame called 1951. So as you can see, uh, as you can see over here, I am generating a lot of years and loading the files present from 1951 to 2014, which were already there on my computer. So I have data up to 2014, and as you can see, there are um, uh, rows in this data frame. Now, the pivot table function or the data frame lets you create SQL style pivot tables. Over here, I specify the values option as births and index as year, and so it has pivoted this data, and basically now we can see the number of male and female births per year. So we can see that there were so many female births in 1951 and so many male births in 1951. Now I want to create a date range. You can see over here, these are the strings, so we want actual timestamps, and we create a date range from 1951 with a, and so we assign the top index of this data frame. Now we want to plot the. So in GNU plot, I specify the F column with I want it as a line plot, and I specify the title as. So as you can see, the number of male births were somewhat greater than the number of female births every year, but is almost the graphs are almost following each other. Method can be used for creating SQL style group by operations on data frames. And over here, I am grouping frame is divided into groups according to year. Now we had the groups, and now we want to iterate over them and basically create pieces of the names that. So now I do some basic cleaning and processing on the data, and I want to see the names that were most popular in each year. So as you can see, you can go over this notebook again. I'll put up the links so that you these names have been plotted over here, and we can see a very clear drop of the name James up to in 1994, whereas Jessica and Sophia actually shot up. So that will be it for today. Thank you so much for being such a patient audience. I really and I'm really sorry for the hiccups. The next webinar will not.
Thank you, Samir, for taking us through the demo. That was really helpful in understanding the extent to which these CyRuby libraries can help us in data visualization. So now I'd like to request all our participants that if you have had any questions throughout the presentation, please send them in now. Meanwhile, I already have a couple of questions which I'm going to put across to Samir. So the first question we have here is, when you are upgrading or installing CyRuby, is there a sort of dependency hell, as in will you have to like go through a lot of trouble for it, or do you have comprehensive documentation, tutorials, etc., which will help people navigate through the entire thing?
We have a lot of documentation for this, okay. And most of the dependency hell that you might go through will be because of the C libraries that the CyRuby functions depend on. Okay. So it squarely depends on the OS that you're using. So most of the libraries have been tested on Mac OS and Debian currently, and I can affirmatively say that they run properly on both. It screwed up on my Mac because this is like the first time I'm using a Mac, so I got it right. So yeah, basically you won't run into dependency here. And rest assured, most of the functions, important functions that most of the specialized functions in SciRuby are optional dependencies on all the libraries.
Okay, so the second question kind of relates to the first one in the sense that in order to use these libraries or in order to get visualization in place, would you need like really specialized system specifications like quantum computers or quad core processors and stuff, or will a simple machine be able to handle it as well?
Yeah, simple machines can handle. Well, I'm using a 2011 version MacBook right now.
Okay.
A
In terms
development laptop. Pardon?
Okay, so in terms of the kind of operating systems that we can use, so you said we can obviously use it with Mac, we can use it with Debian. Anything else that it is very compatible with? What about Windows and others?
Windows is not used. I'm really not very affirmative about. I think there should not be too many problems.
All right. The next question we have is, can you plug SciRuby into mobile phone apps for visualization purposes?
Yes, if you use Naplot, Naplot uses HTML and JavaScript, and you can basically export that and send it to a mobile screen. That should work.
All right. Also, when creating maps in SciRuby, is it possible first of all to create any sort of maps in SciRuby?
Yeah, so the MapNia plugin for Naplot allows that functionality, and any sort of maps can be created using MapNia.
Also, so does it come with built-in layers for various grid designs, coordinates, and world maps, or would the user or the developer have to purchase them on his own?
It comes with those. So it relies on some free datasets for this, and it pulls those from the internet whenever the library is run.
Okay. So what disciplines or departments are using SciRuby right now?
Pardon? I didn't get your question.
So do you know of any projects in the works right now that are actively using SciRuby?
Currently, it's mostly restricted to universities and research departments.
Okay.
So most of our contributors are either PhD aspirants, PhD students, or are professors in universities, and they use it for their work regularly.
All right. So, in the same question, do you know of any departments or projects that that had started with using SciRuby but gave up due to certain limitations and or something like that?
Uh,
Very good to work.
I'm not sure if they gave up, but as far as the contributors to SciRuby go, we have a company called Insight Track using it,
Okay.
and there's another one called TopTal, using SciRuby tools.
Okay.
So, and both their engineers are contributors to our tools, and positive results.
All right. Also, in terms of contributions to SciRuby and in terms of the developments that are happening, what is the roadmap like for the like say the next 2 years? What all are we trying to build or get included into this framework?
We are trying to integrate SciRuby tools with the current web development infrastructure for,
Okay.
and most of our effort is going into building a sort of a bridge between the web tools and the science tools, so that web developers do not need to resort to other languages and tools for the data science purposes. So Daru and things like Daru and Naplot are primarily aimed at that audience.
Okay. Also, I think we have one more question coming in, which says, can you point out to any interesting use case that SciRuby has been put to up till now, something that really stands out for you?
I don't know personally because they're all proprietary. They don't share it. So if you go to the Daru contributors list, there are a bunch of people over there who use Daru for commercial uses in their companies with their Rails applications.
Okay.
So I think they would be the best people to comment on this.
Um, all right then. So, I we have about like 1 more minute, and I would ask if any of our participants have any questions, any more questions. Now would be the time to send those in. Also, Samir, if any of our attendees would like to contribute to SciRuby, is how is that possible, or how should that be done?
So they can. So the one of the most active projects right now is Daru and Nmatrix.
Okay.
So they can either head over to the repositories of these projects,
Okay.
or they can check out the mailing list. I'll just post the link to the mailing list on the chat window,
Okay.
and you can ask any queries that you have over there, and we can help you in whatever.
All right then. So looks like that's all the questions that we have for today's session, and we are right on time. We are ending the session right on time. Thank you once again, Samir, for sharing all of this information with us. And I would also like to thank all our attendees for being such patient listeners. Um, you will be getting the videos and the slides of this session in your mail within the next 24 hours, and also information about our next webinar. So stay tuned, and thank you once again for joining us today.
Thank you so much.